has dedicated his career to helping business leaders and military veterans achieve their full potential. He's the founder of Achieve New Heights LLC and the Military Transition Roundtable. Prior to that, he had a 27-year career as a civil engineer officer, commanding several units and also winning many awards before retiring as a colonel. So without further ado, please welcome Don Gleason.
Hey, Chuck,
right,
it's great to be here today, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. It's going to be an exciting opportunity, and just appreciate the opportunity to get together with you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks again for being on the show. Like I said, I'm brand new, but I'm glad that we're trucking on regardless. So before we dive in, could you tell our listeners a little more about what inspired you to start Achieve New Heights LLC?
Sure. Yeah. I always wanted to be an environmental engineer, and that's why I went to the college and got the degree I did. And in 1982, it was a recession, so I joined the Air Force just for 4 years and then stayed for 27. But throughout that time, as I was flying different places, like on a weekend or whatnot, to do the work, I would pick up like the American Airways magazine or United magazine, and I would read about entrepreneurs. And it just kind of, the life always excited me. Wouldn't that be neat to own your own company, to hang your own shingle, to do your own thing? And I wondered, well, what would that be? And a lot of my peers are consultants doing engineer work back to, say, the Air Force or the Army or whatnot. And that's good, but that's not me. And what I loved in the military was leadership. I loved helping people increase their performance, be better than they thought they could be, helping teams perform better than they thought they could. And I could tell you all kinds of stories about that. But the bottom line was, as I was getting out, I joined Booz Allen, and then I got the opportunity to become certified with the John Maxwell team. And that gave me an opportunity to start my own business as a speaker, trainer, coach, assessment. I did the DISC assessment and team assessment. And we help teams, help organizations, help leaders and organizations grow their team, grow their people. And that's just what I wanted to do. So I started my own business to do that. And it was interesting because, now I'm going a little bit beyond your question. It was interesting because it wasn't the customer that I expected, which is where I got my real connections. As I had been helping a lot of people in the military get into officer training school and ROTC and other things, it was helping, what resonated in the business was helping military spouses, veterans, as they transitioned out of the service or were looking for that new job, to find the next job. And I've really turned more into a career transition coach. I still do executive coaching. I love it. I do training, the DISC assessment and other things, networking, et cetera. But a lot of it relates back to career transition and how we can help people. Here's my quote: help people find the job that energizes them so they can have the life that fulfills them. Because too many people are they feel locked into that job and they're just not happy. So that's what got me going into Achieve New Heights.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Awesome. So yeah, I think that kind of, and thanks for your service. Obviously it was definitely an awesome and excellent span of 27 years. Okay. So it's really good. I obviously you probably heard a lot of people, say this, in the business community, if you can find something that you're passionate about, that is the best niche to be in. Okay, so
if I could touch on that, I 100% agree with what you said, and that's part of my business, is helping people find that, because you can find you can find your personality, you can understand your skills and your interests, you can go back to your experiences and figure out what you really enjoyed. And all of that will come back to something that really energizes you. There's a lot of people who debate, Should you find your passion? Is it your passion? Is it your purpose? And there's people arguing for it. There's people arguing against it. I kind of jumped back into that position that energizes you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the job that you look forward to the night before. So you don't have the Sunday scaries as they talk about, right? You're starting to getting anxious because on Sunday you're thinking about going back to work Monday. You wake up on Monday morning excited to go to work. You get in, you're excited to take on that first opportunity. If people bring you problems, it's not, oh my God, here we go again. It's, let's solve that so we can advance the program. And I want people to be working in that kind of environment. They say that this piece of 72% or whatever the number is based upon the survey of people who are disengaged, it has an economic impact of $1 trillion a year.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is huge. That is tremendous.
Yeah. So by people hiding from tasks, slow rolling tasks, just all kinds of things like that. So to me, it's all about finding that job that energizes you. But then I also think what happens is you go home at night excited. I got to do this. I can't wait till tomorrow. I'm energized when I engage with my spouse or my significant other or my kids or my neighbors or my church. And I just want to be engaged versus exhausted, mentally beat down, go home, turn on the TV, fall asleep, have a beer, go to bed.
Yeah.
Two totally different lives. And I want to people, I want people to have what I have, which is excitement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks for letting me jump that in there.
All right. So can you share a bit about the job or experience that inspired you the most throughout your career?
It was leading those people. So I got an opportunity. I'll just pick one. I got an opportunity in 2004. I had just been selected for colonel. It was a colonel position to deploy to Baghdad and lead the reconstruction of Iraq. I was not the overall lead. We were working for the embassy, but I was the deputy chief of the projects, programming projects to go into construction. So we were working with the Iraqi embassies to define the project, to scope them in with contractors, build them so we could get them into design, and then the Corps of Engineers would run with it in construction. And I had 397 people that all of a sudden I became responsible for. And about 100 of them were Iraqis. And the others were a lot of host nation folks from around the world that had come together with this. And then there was a small contingent of U.S. military. And so the challenges were immense. At one point, a friend of mine who was at Air War College down in Montgomery, Alabama, he wrote me a note and said, hey, we're studying what it takes to put a person in your position. What kind of 2-week school could we do? And I said, you know what? It took me.
Oh, they didn't even have a.
Well, they did.
Oh,
they did. But they were talking about how they could improve it.
Oh,
and I said, you know, based upon the things that I've seen so far, it's taken me 21 years to be qualified to be here, to be the person, the leader that I need to be, based upon all the challenges that I took on, and the relationships that I had to build. The very first day, I was getting ready to go in to meet the 3-star civilian, and he'd only been there 3 weeks longer than I had, and I was standing waiting, and I was talking to this brigadier general who was heading the contracts side. And he leans over to me and he says, sorry for this. He says, you better get your shit together because you guys are failing this program huge. And I'm like, well, damn, sir, it's nice to meet you too. How are you doing today? You know, maybe together we can fix this thing. How do you like that? And he just kind of looked at me, and he kept trying to do things with my team behind my back. And they'd always tell me about it, and I'd show up in the meetings and we'd work things out together. And we built teams. So I think what helped me was all of that experience from 20 years of building teams and communicating and collaborating and holding people accountable for work and all those different pieces. That's what I was able to bring to make it successful.
Okay, yeah, awesome. That definitely sounds like an excellent experience. And
Yeah.
if we can kind of dive into
Mhm.
challenges on the career transition
Yeah.
phase, from your experience, what is the main issue you see military personnel and veterans struggling with during their career transition?
I'm glad you brought this up
Mhm,
because normally what happens is when people start thinking about getting out, they pick
mhm,
up what used to be the newspaper. Now it's the internet. We go to
mhm,
company websites and we start searching for jobs that are available. And we
mhm,
start asking, can I do that job?
mhm,
Well, given the amount of experience that people have from the military and even in non-military, you can do a lot of things, right?
mhm,
The question is, do you want to do them? So I think the number one challenge people have is stepping back and saying, what is it that I really want to do?
mhm,
What fits me, right? It's that energy piece. It's how do I apply my skills? How do I, the experiences piece, the passion. It's all of those things kind of wrapped up together of what do I
mhm,
really want to do? I remember for me, I did the executive transition assistance program in
mhm,
December of '05. And I did it again in July of '08. They always say you should do it twice. The
mhm,
second time, the leader running the course had this questionnaire. It was several pages long. And she
mhm,
said, go through this tonight. So I did. I locked myself in my office. I said, dear, my wife, I said, I'm gonna really focus in on this. And it
mhm,
was questions which you could do very superficially or you could really dig in, right? What kind of role do I want to have?
mhm,
What kind do I want to work business development or not? Do I want to travel or not? And how
mhm.
much? Do I want to supervise people? And you just go on and on and on with all these
Yeah.
different questions.
Mhm,
What kind of values do you have? What kind of values do you want your company to have? Right? What kind
mhm,
of culture? What kind of leader do you respond best to? And as I sat there for several hours writing out answers, it wasn't just thinking into it, it was writing out
mhm,
answers. I came into being able to define what I really wanted, right?
mhm,
Because I had a lot of people tell me that I should jump back into the design, construction, facility maintenance business because there's lots of jobs and big money.
mhm,
Well,
mhm,
I got into sanitary engineering in 1982, not because of the money, but
mhm.
because of a lifelong dream to help clean America's waters. And
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do coming out of the military. I wanted to get back into that. A lot
Mhm,
less jobs, not as high pay, but a lot more internal satisfaction to me. And
mhm,
Booz Allen Hamilton let me do that. They brought me in. They had some ideas for me to help run contracts, win contracts. They did
mhm.
a training program with me, but I got to have an impact back on the Air Force Environmental Program and the Air Force Emergency Management Program, and I just really kind of loved it. I stayed there for 9 years, and here's what's
Yeah.
significant about 9 years.
Yeah.
According to a University of Syracuse study at the Institute for Veterans and Military Families back in about 2015,
Mhm.
military leave their first post-military job within 12 months at the rate of 45%.
Oh, wow.
So almost one out of every two will leave in the first 12 months.
I think that's probably accurate.
Yeah. I
I
stayed
think no, okay, never mind. I think I stayed probably for 9 months.
9 months. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
somewhere within the first 12 months,
Yeah.
right? So you fit that.
Yeah.
I stayed for 9 years.
Mhm. Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I had the right role. I had the right culture.
Mhm,
I had the right team. I had the right
mhm,
leaders. In fact, it was one of the reasons I changed internally within Booz Allen was the leader no longer became the right leader for me.
mhm,
So I went to a different leader. And then when the culture of the organization changed, I left. So that goes back to when I joined the John Maxwell team and started my own company. So um, to answer your question, what I think most people really need to do is slow down and
mhm,
think about what they really want to do. What's their focus, as some people
mhm,
say? What they want to do next is what I use the words, but it's define those pieces of what you want your life to look like. Because you didn't get to decide when you came in the military.
mhm.
Now you get to decide.
Yeah.
There's dozens, if not hundreds, of companies you can go work with. The question
Mhm,
is which one. And if you don't know what you want, you can't match yourself to them.
Oh, okay. So for people listening, is not just looking at the numbers and the, oh man, these figures, or this
Yeah.
is this and that, or this is 30-day vacation here, or this. So it's, you really have to slow down and just kind of check those boxes. Okay,
Mhm.
okay, that's
Yeah.
absolutely excellent.
And
Absolutely.
I love helping people do that exercise and get them to think into it. I actually have
Mhm.
them write out a job description. Here's what I would like to do. And
Mhm.
they'll tend to go to the internet and try to find one. It's like, no, 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 no. I don't
Mhm.
want you to find one that exists. I want you
Mhm.
to find yours that's internal to you, right?
Oh wow. Huh.
This much travel,
Yeah.
supervising, business development, what kind of role, what kind of leader.
Yeah.
I want you to define it. So when some company comes to talk to you, you can ask intelligent questions.
Uh-huh.
Tell me a little bit about the role that you're thinking for me.
Oh, okay.
Because otherwise we'll just say, "Oh, that sounds exciting. Yeah, you'll pay
Yeah.
me 100,000 for that. You bet." And then
Yeah.
then all
Yeah.
of a sudden you get in the job and you're not happy. So
Yeah. I see. Okay, so like on moving into the overcoming the challenges and coaching, etc.
mhm.
Why do you think that military personnel and veterans haven't found that solution yet? Because of course, I mean, I got a ton of buddies that are they think like me. I mean, I obviously
Mhm.
yeah, I probably needed to talk to you, to somebody like you, when I was coming out. But me and my friends, all we looked at and when we talked about was the money. So I mean, why
Mhm.
do you think that military personnel and veterans have not found that solution that you've obviously pointed out here? What do you believe is holding them back?
Yeah, I think it's several different things, right?
Hmm.
Um, Remember back to when they came into the military, and you either go through basic training or ROTC or officer training school or the academy or however you come into the service.
Hmm.
And the military breaks you down and rebuilds you
Hmm.
to be what they need you to be. And during pretty much for most everybody in your career, you don't really get to decide what you're going to do, right? You do
Hmm.
some type of test up front, unless you have a degree like a lawyer or a medical guy
Hmm.
or an
Hmm.
engineer, you get assigned to a job.
Hmm.
And when they have too many in that career field, the military decides who's going to cross train and here's your
Hmm.
options. So it's the best of these, right? And you get to pick.
Hmm.
But you really didn't get to go through the whole list and say, you know what I really want to do is this. Well, they may
Hmm.
be overmanned too, or at manning, and they don't have any positions. So
Hmm.
we're not used to being able to pick. So we just go wherever we're told to go. And even at the senior level, senior enlisted, senior officers, they've gone away from being able to interview for positions.
Hmm.
When I came through and I was looking for a chief of operations job as a major, and then as a
Hmm.
squadron commander, as a lieutenant colonel, I got to interview. That was really valuable. I
Hmm.
got to interview for the positions. I remember one night, it was like on a Sunday at 4 o'clock,
Hmm.
and I called to the group commander out in was it Misawa, Japan, Yokota, Japan,
Hmm.
and I said, "Sir, I'm not on the list from Pacific Air Forces PACAF headquarters to be on top 3, but I would love to
Hmm.
interview for your position." And he
Hmm.
goes, "Let's do it." And I ended up coming out number 2. I didn't get it, but boy, I got
Hmm.
valuable experience, and I learned a bunch by the questions he asked and how I
Yeah.
thought into them. And so we don't get to do that anymore. When I got to go for a group commander, I just got put in a job.
Hmm.
I got to talk to my boss. My boss got to play into the conversation, and
Hmm.
they put me in a job that they thought would fit for me, and it worked very well. I loved it, but I didn't get to compete for it. So we don't know how to write a resume. We don't know how to do LinkedIn. We don't know how to interview. We
Hmm.
don't know how to decide what we want to do. So I think that is the big problem. We need that course that helps us figure those things out, and
Hmm.
that's the Department of Labor. It's DOD mandated Department of Labor Transition Assistance Program, or for senior enlisted senior officers, it's the Executive Transition Assistance Program. But most the word on the street is it doesn't meet the needs, and most people don't go through it. I couldn't believe the statistics. Congress just wrote a letter about a year ago to the Joint Chiefs, to each of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Chief of Staff of the different services, and said, you guys are failing. 50% don't go, and the other, like 40% of the other 50% are not paying attention. They're not, they're skipping out on certain sections. This is a mandatory class. You need to make them be there. Just like when you come into the service, they train you to get in. We need to help train them to get out, because there's a whole lot of skills that they don't have that they need, and they struggle because of that. I can tell you story after story after story of people who fell into frustration, into depression. And you may have heard this. Career transition for military is the number one source, ideation for suicide.
Oh, wow. Man.
Yeah, so it's that serious, 22 a day. And now some people are saying 30 a day. Even though we put billions of dollars into it, it's going up, not down. So we're not solving the problem.
Okay. Well, I mean, having programs like yours, I believe, is a start, I think. And it can only, I believe, improve from here. So another
but it's not just the program. There's tons of programs. It kind of goes back to the military member. You've got to own it. You've got to focus on it. It takes about 2 years to walk through the process. And I tell you, too many people wait until those last couple months, open up the web pages, apply for this job, get in this internship, think they got it made because they got one, and they're off. But they haven't really thought about what it is that I want. And if you don't do that internal search, you're bound to leave within a year, leave again within a couple of years. I know people who've left 5 times in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And that's not uncommon. I don't remember what the average is, but it's the member taking that time to really dig into themselves. And that's hard. We don't want to do that. That's why coaches are so important. We don't want to ask ourselves those tough questions, right? Because sometimes it hurts. What are my skills? I thought I had that, but so then what if I went to my boss and he says, no, I don't think you're a good communicator. Oh, on all my performance reports, you guys have been telling me that I'm a great communicator. Well, that's always overblown. I need to tell you at this point, you're not a good communicator. Wow, that starts to hurt. But if we get away from the fear and shame of that and get into what do I need to know so that I can improve myself, then we can be much better.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Thanks for detailing that the way you awesomely did. Another important challenge that you've identified is that military personnel often have difficulty articulating their value, which is, I mean, it could mean the difference between getting this resource and getting that resource. Why do you think this is such a common struggle?
I've thought a lot into this one and talked to a lot of people, and there are different opinions. I'll give you my opinion. Because we don't have that experience, right? What we write every year is a fitness report or a performance report, and they're usually one-line bullets. And we're not talking to a real variety of audiences. So we tend to not tell the whole story. And I want to emphasize the story piece, right? What I see in most resumes is I was responsible for. I was responsible for. Take for me, right? At one point when I was Civil Engineering Squadron Commander, I was responsible for X number of acres of property, X number of square foot of airfield pavements, X number of square foot of roads, X number of square foot of buildings. And when you looked at the 66 Civil Engineer Squadron commanders, we pretty much all looked alike. Those numbers of square foot varied, but the categories were all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask yourself the question, so then why weren't you all the same? Because if you wrote the performance report that way, the way most people write their resumes, we'd all be the same. But what made us different was this guy had a challenge of a tornado hit the base, or a flood hit the base, or,
Mm-hmm.
the wing commander wanted to build this building, and how did they respond to it? Or he wanted to build this program, right? It was how that leader responded to the challenges, how he or she led through the challenges of the organization,
Mm-hmm.
right? My third squadron command, I replaced a guy who got fired. I had to figure out what the problem was and rebuild my team to be able to move for the next 2 years. And we ended up coming out number 2 in the Air Force for best civil engineer of the year in the Air Force. So I had a great team.
Mm-hmm.
I just had to rebuild confidence in them because they were starting to blame themselves. And I had to figure out what the problem was. So it's the same idea. But we have to articulate that story. What is the problem? What's the pain? What's the solution? What's the result? It's kind of like any movie or book that you pick up, a reality TV show. They get you to feel that problem, right? It's not just that I was responsible for, maintenance and repair of $2.5 million worth of facilities. It's I faced this problem. Perfect example, when I was in Baghdad, Iraq, I was responsible for programming projects for $12.8 million reconstruction, $12.8 billion reconstruction program. Okay, sounds significant, but doesn't really say much. But if I say, led an effort to benchmark the costs in his second week on the job, reallocating 1.5 billion or 14% back into the program, it was briefed to Congress, and he saved X number of schools, X number of hospitals to be renovated. Now that sounds significant. That's the story we need to be able to tell.
Okay.
And we're not good at it because too many people are following other people's resumes.
Yeah.
They're just listing the responsibilities.
Oh, I see. So basically, people are basically templatizing their own resumes based on the other resumes that they. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. What's that word? We're like sheep, and we're just following the herd, right?
Yeah.
We have to get out of the herd and do it the right way. So it really articulates value.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really really important. I mean, because I know employers, they have ranges of well, they don't have a specific number. They'll have a range. So obviously, the person that puts it the way that you've outlined, can get the better chance of getting that higher range of the rate. Definitely important piece of information.
When I joined Booz Allen, I got hired in as a senior associate, which was considered to be on the leadership team for the company. It's 25,000 people. And a lot of other colonels that came out got brought in as a lead associate or one level below that. And I asked the question, so what did I do differently, right? And they said, because of the way you answered questions in the interview, we saw a lot greater potential for you to lead different things in the organization, and therefore we wanted to reward you and keep you. Okay. So that's why I say what I'm saying, right? Is articulate your value.
Yeah.
But most people say, well, my value is my degree or my certification or my years of experience.
Yeah.
No, it's how you use those to solve problems.
Yeah, this is really interesting. So if I can move in a new direction, which is coaching and leadership development. Now, through Achieve New Heights LLC, you help people realize and overcome their blockages and limited thinking. Can you give us an example of a coaching experience that you had where you helped someone break through these barriers?
You bet. So I met one young man about 15 months ago, and he had gone through a whole bunch of issues with his parents. Now, this gentleman got his bachelor's, he got his master's, he was very sharp, he had done some really neat things, but his parents and his uncle had always, it was an alcoholic family, it was an abusive family, and he'd always been told he would amount to nothing.
Yeah.
He was making about $50,000 a year. So we started working through where he was in life and what he wanted. And he wanted to be making about 180. And that figured that's what he was really worth. And in California, with a master's, with the 20 some years of experience, that is about right. But he wasn't there. So we started walking through those limiting beliefs and being able to show him the value that he's brought on all these different projects. And then we started researching different jobs and being able to articulate his value and preparing him for interviews. By the time we stopped working after about 9 months, he was making 150. And he was talking to companies that were potentially offering him 180.
Oh, wow.
So within 9 months, we tripled his income.
Yeah. So that's over that's like 200% like jump. Yeah. Oh, wow. That is, yeah. So this entire mindset and framework of how to present yourself to employers, it could definitely be a game changer. I mean, numbers wise, obviously.
That's right. Another example, not even the money piece, but this young lady who I had met a number of years ago, we coached a little bit, and then she went and got her master's in data analysis. And as she was getting a government job, she hired me, and she knew that it was how she approached those conversations. She was holding these kernels way up here, and she was fearful of going into those conversations. How's she going to present herself? What are they going to ask me? What are they going to think about me? Am I going to fail? And she didn't want to do it. She almost didn't take the job. So we sat down and we walked through her experience. She had 20 years experience in corporate doing finance and marketing. And now she had the data analytics degree, and she got straight A's in the program, did a capstone exercise where she did really well. So we walked through all of those pieces, and it was about building her confidence. So like you said, mindset, right? We got her focused in on it's like when you speak. Right? When you speak in front of an audience, too often we think about ourselves and how we're going to come off. And John Maxwell teaches us, think about the audience and what they're ready to hear. Get yourself out of the picture. Think about the audience.
Oh, wow.
And it's the same thing when you're going to go talk to your boss, right? What does your boss need? What's your boss looking for? What can I take to them? So we got her focused in on that. And she quickly moved through the intern program because she was doing so well. She quickly moved through her next level because she was in a 9, 11, 12 developmental program in the GS general schedule. And she's just advancing very quickly. And she points it back to our ability to work together and build her mindset. And she's going to, because she's getting ready to now go for a 13, she's going to hire me again to help me build that in. So it's we even did one day where it's self-talk, but it's also before you walk into a meeting, there's a thing called a power pose where you stand up strong and you think into, I'm qualified. It's all that positive self-talk. I got the right degree, I got the right experience. I've got the answers to this equation. I can answer the questions. I am a valuable person. And you walk in with a whole positive mindset. And when she did that, every time, people would gather, afterwards and say, man, I was really impressed by you. Keep it up. You're doing great stuff, right? She got a lot of great words. So coaching is amazing. It really does good stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty great. It's not, this is obviously, as we talk, it's obviously not something anyone would even know at all, without coming into, and finding out directly the information that that the program puts you through.
Right.
Yeah, it's really amazing. How do you tailor your coaching experience to suit new leaders and nonprofits versus for-profits or those that are even just starting their own businesses? Because the different levels.
First thing is there. Everybody is a little bit different. So, but it's all kind of the same, right? whether you're in nonprofit, you're in corporation, you're in government, those
Mhm.
people that I was just talking about, those two examples, it was kind of the
Mhm.
same thing, right? They had gone through something in their life that had
Mhm.
attacked their confidence, and you
Mhm.
have to rebuild their confidence. Now, how you do that ends up being a little bit different. So you bring some different skills, just like you bring some different skills to every problem that you face in a job. So
Mhm.
it's the same thing. I have to bring those different skills to help them through those issues.
Mhm.
I always start with the DISC assessment. I need to
Mhm.
understand their personality, how they communicate, how they behave.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you're familiar with DISC, right? But it's a
I might have come across it, but probably
yeah,
didn't, get
yeah,
tied together with the actual name.
yeah. Are you a dominant person? So are you outgoing or reserved? Are
Mhm.
you people focused or task focused?
Mhm.
And then there's four combinations of that.
Oh, okay.
And and we're actually a combination of all four, but certain
Yeah.
ones are dominant,
Oh,
right?
I see.
And,
Okay.
and depending on the intensity of those, is you're stronger or not, I don't want to say weaker. You're either much stronger or less
Mhm.
strong
Uh-huh.
in that trait,
Mhm.
right? Some people want to be in charge, some people don't. Some people
Mhm.
resist conflict, some people don't.
Mhm.
Uh, the C's, they need to think before they speak. I's need to speak before they think.
Mhm.
So knowing their personality, you now
Mhm.
start to understand how they behave and how you can help them a little bit better. So we always start with the DISC assessment, and then we
Mhm.
walk through an intake form where we
Yeah.
think through what are the issues, what's been happening, what
Mhm.
are the goals that you're trying to achieve. I use
Mhm.
another thing called the wheel of life, and it's a wheel with five spokes,
Yeah.
and those spokes are your physical body, your spiritual, your
Mhm.
relationships, your financial, your professional,
Mhm.
and you rate yourself, and you start seeing where you feel your life is short and what you want to do to try to fix it, right?
Yeah.
So if my relationships with my family isn't good, that could be impacting a lot of other things. So how can we
Mhm.
build those relationships up? What
Mhm.
actions can you take? I was working with a missionary who was low on the financial support. So we
Mhm.
came up with a strategy for him to find more mission partners. And he ended last year fully funded for the first time in 18 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So huge, huge impact. Right. And
Yeah.
it's now in his family, the stress in his family.
Yeah.
He's got 7 kids, 3 of them are going off to college.
Yeah.
So it changed a lot of things about the stress in his life.
Mhm.
So you really have to figure out what's going on, and you
Mhm.
tailor it to each person.
Oh, I got you.
But
Oh,
but I have
wow.
I have a number of things in my repertoire, my tool bag
Mhm.
that I can
Mhm.
bring to every situation. Does that answer that?
Oh yeah, yeah. It most definitely does. Oh man, it's, we're not even. I'm literally blown away. Like I say, like I mean, I'm in cyber,
Hmm.
during my day job, and we're very, very structured. I didn't even know things like this existed. But okay, so yeah, that's very, very enriching information. If I can also go into a somewhat different direction on the military transition roundtable.
Hmm.
In 2020, you founded the Military Transition Roundtable to specifically help military personnel, spouses,
Hmm.
veterans with their career transitions. What specific needs did you see in the community that
Yeah.
led you to start this nonprofit?
Okay. I do have to say right up front, I worked in that for 3 years, and then I left that
Mhm.
organization in
Oh,
March of 2023.
okay.
So I'm not with the organization anymore, but let me
I
still
see.
address what you just asked.
Mhm.
Um, my individual who became my partner and I, we were sitting in a career transition workshop by another nonprofit, and the
Mhm.
leader said, "Don't transition alone."
Oh,
But when we
wow.
sat and talked to all the people, they were
Mhm.
pretty much doing it on their own, right? They'd come to these transition workshops, they'd get the resources, and they would go
Mhm.
home and they
Yeah.
would try to apply it all together,
Mhm.
all by themselves.
Mhm.
They weren't tied in with other people that they could ask questions to, who could speak into them. So what we formed was a mastermind. And a mastermind is a group where you work together through issues. So as we had at one point 6 cohorts of 10 people, and we would meet every 2 weeks, and you would come in and you talk about, what's the biggest challenges, what's the biggest successes. And through that, my partner and I could figure out some things that we could talk about, and we'd have somebody talk about an issue they were struggling with. And everybody would get a chance to ask questions to really understand it, because you can't give advice if you don't understand the situation. And then we'd all give some advice. And then we'd come back to that individual who brought the thing forward, and they would say, we would ask them, so of what you've heard of the advice, what things resonate with you that you're going to work on the next 2 weeks until we come back together? And they would pick a couple things. And then when they came back 2 weeks later, we would hold them accountable. Tell us what you did. If you didn't implement it, tell us why. What successes, what roadblocks, what worked well, what didn't, right? And that working together helped. We had 157 people that had gotten their job, coming out of the military, and some of them were spouses, but 157 who got that job. And we measured, the metric we used to measure our success was how long they were staying in that job, right? Go back to that University of Syracuse where 45% leave within 12 months. Of our group, 22% were leaving within 12 months. And we were measuring now into that second year and third year when I left. So we were making a significant impact on people finding the right role, the right leader, a company with the right values, having the right culture, and answering a lot of those things because we made them dig into themselves as well. Because we would do things individually, like help develop their LinkedIn profile and help them with a DISC assessment and stuff like that to dig into other stuff we've talked about today. So the mastermind is very powerful because now you bring the knowledge and experience of the whole group.
Instead of just one, that's like a super brain almost.
Yeah, I can help individuals from one-on-one coaching, but when you bring 7 or 8 people together and they're all bringing their knowledge and experience, it's just amazing. I love it. So it was really, really powerful.
Oh, that's great. That is definitely awesome. Could you share a success story, like a specific success story from the Military Transition Roundtable actually, I think you already, you already mentioned the 22%. So I think let me kind of dive a little further on, let's see. I think
here is a specific example from the Military Transition Roundtable, or MTR. We had a young lady, and she wanted to get into human resources. She didn't really have any experience with it, but she was getting her master's by the time we got introduced. So she kept running against the roadblock getting a job because she didn't have the experience. So we started talking to her about, opportunities to volunteer in different places. And then at one point, somebody in the room asked her and said, so what kind of things are you doing today? And she goes, well, I spend 40% of my time supporting my husband's business. Oh, so tell us what you do for him. Well, I've set up all the human resources procedures and the finance procedures, and I do this and that. And we all kind of stopped and said, you're gaining experience right there. But she hadn't put that on her resume.
Oh, wow.
So we helped her get over that roadblock of this is valuable experience. Because she said, well, I'm not getting paid for it. I said, yeah, you're not getting paid directly because it's your husband's business. But you really ought to work out some type of contract, basically, because you're now a contract employee to your husband's business. You should be, and you should have a stipulation. Now, whether you take the money and give it right back, that's up to you guys how you work it. But you are earning compensation, which now makes you feel like an employee, makes you feel valuable. This is something that should go on my resume. So she did. And then over that year, she continued to we helped her come up with more ideas of things that she could do in the company. And then she got that job outside, which now became a full-time because she was only part-time with her husband. And they weren't earning a second income, and they were in the same business. So if the business went down, both of them would be out of job, right? So she wanted to diversify. So she now had a year plus of experience being the sole HR in a small business, and she got a job into a company. So that was a powerful example of how the Military Transition Roundtable helped. Just group coaching helped.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but if I can kind of re-emphasize it again, how do you measure the success on this? Are there metrics that you use to measure the impact of the Military Transition Roundtable, or is it more of a different vantage point, like somebody getting a job or getting promoted, for instance?
We were trying to come up with those metrics, and that one that I expressed to you with the 22% versus 45% retention was the only one we could really put our hang our hats on. Because you can't really say they got a better job, because some people only want an $85,000, or they're in an area where they only want the $85,000. Some people want the $125,000 and they're qualified for it. So you can't use the money piece. We tried to work the timing of the time that they came to us, but that's all driven by how they focus in and work through it. Some people still are working 40 to 60 hour a week job, and they don't have that much time to put into it. Some people have more time. So we couldn't come up with a good metric besides that one that we could hang our hat on. I'm not sure where they're at now, since I've been away from them for a year. I'm not sure where they're at today. We haven't talked, but
that's still pretty good. That is definitely still pretty good. I mean, you can, given that the one that they did for the nationwide, you can use it as to always measure what you're doing against that. So I think that's pretty significant. So on advice for veterans in business, for our listeners who are veterans considering entrepreneurship, what advice would you give them as they embark on the new journey
for being an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
I think the first thing is find a mentor. You've got to find somebody else who has done this, and hopefully something in your field, right? If you want to be a consultant, somebody else who's faced those challenges, right? There's an old saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And a lot of times we want to go fast, so we don't want anybody else to slow us down or make us think about things. But it's better to slow down and think about the things you have to do and get them done right, which falls into the second one. So first one's a mentor. Second one is follow a process. A lot of times I point people back to the book E-Myth Revisited. It's the blue cover by Michael Gerber. He's got 20 plus years of experience, probably more now. And he talks in the very beginning, right? 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. Of that, of those that succeed, 80% more fail in the next 5 years. And here's the reasons he found why, right? So he takes people through the mindset piece in the beginning of, in a company, you have the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. Sometimes they're all within the same person, but as the company grows, they start to grow into different people. And you have to understand those roles that you're going to operate in. But then in the back of the book, he talks you through, what is it you want in life, which is what I do with people coming out of the military. What is it you want, right? What you want that life to look like? How much time do you want to spend? How much time do you want to travel? All those different things. So what is it you want in life? But then how does the business fit into that? And then how do you build an organization structure? How do you build processes? All of those different things. And even a business plan. When my partner and I on the MTR sat down at one point and built out that business plan about 6 months in, it opened up total number of things that we needed to work on that we hadn't even thought of. But as soon as we put out there, so we want to make this much money, we want to have this many cohorts, we want to be impacting this many people. To be able to do that, we had to hire more facilitators. We had to do this kind of training. We had to be able to do this type of service. All these things opened up. So, and more than 60% of businesses do not have a business plan. Oddly enough. So, there's so many organizations out there for military to help the small business development council, I think, like through your local university. There are nonprofits, I know in San Antonio, Launch, SA, SCORE, others who help entrepreneurs, especially veterans, write business plans. They call it the business model canvas. But to go through that. So number 1 is a mentor. 2 is follow a process. And I think 3 is don't start until those things are in place. All of us want to jump right in. My partner and I did that with our nonprofit. Just want to jump in and try it out and make it happen and serve people, right? But when you start getting so busy, you never go back and build the business plan and think about all those things that you have to do to document the processes. Right? So now all of a sudden, my partner and I, we were doing things differently, and we were wasting a lot of time and a lot of effort because we weren't in a standard process. Successful businesses do things the same way every time. So I think those are probably the 3 biggest things I would tell people: mentor, follow a process, and get it set up right before you start executing.
Before you even start, you just have the patience. Yeah.
And everybody will say, "Well, I don't know what to write until I do it." But just got to imagine it, do the best you can. So now you have something down there, and then 3 months in, 6 months in, you come back and you revise it versus having to write it.
Okay. Outstanding. So on mindset, I guess mindset is a whole different thing. But it still has the same impact on business. So what mindset shifts do you think are necessary for veterans to succeed in the business world?
Yeah. Go back to what the military taught us. The number 1 thing is it's all about we. It's all about the team, right? There's no I in team. And we never would talk about what I did. We would talk about what the team did. And the first thing you got to get over is that. Because the civilian companies are hiring you, the individual. They want to know what you did. We were working with one gentleman one time, and he wanted to get into Amazon. And when he expressed what he talked about in the interview, he was always talking about what the team did. He didn't get hired. And the feedback he got was, "You never really told us what you did, so we don't know, what we're buying." So we got him to change it around. And when he finally got over that mindset, he came in. He talked about the team, but he talked about how he contributed to the team. He got hired quickly, and got hired into a senior position for where he wanted to go, right? And he's still there. He's loving it. I think it's been 3 years now. He's still loving it. I still touch back in with him periodically. So get over the piece, the humbleness, right? Too often we think we're being selfish if we talk about ourselves, but we're not. We have to articulate to the company what we can do, how we can lead, the value we bring. It goes back to that conversation we had earlier on resumes. I think the other one, I guess that is the second one, is that humbleness. Get over the humbleness. Somebody defined, I hope I say this right. Being humble is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. So too often when we think about being humble, we stand in front of a room and we downplay ourselves. We criticize ourselves, right? We almost take ourselves down a notch. And that's not being humble. That's almost being self-deprecating, right? But to be humble, when I think of myself less, I'm talking about the team. I'm talking about the result. I'm talking about the client. It's kind of like the difference between a narcissist and a not, right? The narcissist is always talking about themselves and what they did. and you want to be proud of what you did, but you really want to talk about the results you did for your clients, results you did for your organization. So those are the 2 things I think are. Those are huge mindset shifts. Because in the military we got taught, totally the opposite, especially it's all about the team, and that's part of that having to retrain, which takes a while,
Mhm.
understand it and how it shows up. There's so many different things. Again, power of coaching. I remember my coach asked me one time, we were talking about money, and she said, "What's your relationship with money?" I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she kind of gave me some thoughts on that question. I said, "Okay." I said, "Let me think about that before our next session." So I took my phone, and it was during COVID, so I started walking through the neighborhood. I was walking every day, and I had a note section. I was typing different thoughts about, where did my thoughts about money show up, right? My parents, my friends, teachers, things I've learned, all these different things. And I thought it would be a 20-minute exercise. 90 minutes later, I was still walking and typing
Wow.
because I kept thinking about different things that were popping up
Yeah.
and how it impacted me. And it was the ones later on that had the biggest impact. So I had to spend that time to really understand it. So I think the same thing, we got to get people to think into, goes back to thinking into what they really want to do, thinking into their values, right? We always just say, well, I've come out of the Air Force, so therefore my values are service, excellence, integrity. Are they really? Or did I just adopt those for the time?
Yeah.
Because there are people who come out of the service who don't exhibit integrity, don't exhibit service before self.
Yeah.
So did they really ever adopt them into their own life? So you got to really understand who you are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very, very impactful. As we wrap up, and thanks so far for this is just awesome. Yeah. I mean, this is really, really valuable information. As we wrap up, what's next for Achieve New Heights? And are there any new projects or initiatives that you're excited about or planning?
Yeah, there definitely is. One thing I'm working hard on right now is to launch a digital course, because I spend a lot of time talking the things that we're talking about today. So I'm going over it over and over again. And what I want to do is be able to articulate it and have a place where somebody can go and pick up that course and walk through it and listen to it over and over, because we're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about how to exercise, how to find your focus. We're going to talk about networking and the fear that military have when they come out and why they resist networking. And the fourth one is how to articulate your value. We'll talk about that from an elevator pitch, from a LinkedIn profile, from a resume, from an interview. So it's going to be a significant course, but it hits some key areas that I think we're missing in a lot of different programs, and how we're articulating those. So I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping to launch it by November. So I'm working on it hard.
That's right around. Yeah, that's right around.
It's right around the corner. And I think that's going to be significant for everybody. And I can incorporate it into my career transition coaching, because when I launch it, people will be able to, we'll go through week by week. So I'll have like a Dave Ramsey office hours, right? And we'll come in, we'll talk about a piece of it, and we'll do questions and answers. It'll almost work into like a group coaching.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really powerful.
Yeah. It definitely. It sounds very exciting. Absolutely. And where can our listeners learn more about your work and get involved? I mean, because just like within this hour, I mean, there's stuff there you can talk about at the bar forever.
That's right.
And where can our listeners learn more about your work and get involved with your organization?
Yeah, two places. My website, achievenewheights.com. Just relaunched it to focus in on the career transition piece, and continuing to perfect that, and starting to put some blogs on there with a lot of the stuff we were talking about. And then the second one is through my LinkedIn. I'll send you that, but it's if you search Don with a middle initial L and Gleason, Gleason, just like Jackie, if you remember Jackie Gleason. I'm the only Don L. Gleason, and I've got a number of different podcasts where I've been guest on. I'm posting almost every day talking about these different aspects. I'm doing videos, so you'll get a good feel for me, and just send me a note and say, hey, I heard you here with Tucka on the VP Entrepreneur podcast, and I will give you a 30-minute consultation talking about where you're at in your career and what things could be valuable for you. 30 minutes complimentary.
Oh, okay. Oh, that is absolutely, yeah, that is absolutely valuable.
Yeah, I want to serve your audience.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much, Don, for joining us today and sharing your insights. I mean, thank you too for joining my podcast. Being that there's literally, I think on Facebook, I think I have to still push your content out there. It's been a pleasure, working with you and just hearing all the nuggets that you have for the military community. And thanks everyone. If you're watching, if you're listening, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review for Don. Leave a review for VP. And hopefully, I'll be back on next week with more stories and strategies from veteran entrepreneurs. Until then, keep pushing forward, everybody. And thanks for listening.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
All right. Okay. So